Welcome back, everybody, to This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry. Hope you've been well. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Happy December. Can you believe that we are already into the final month of 2025? Simultaneously, a stupid long year and a year that has gone by unbelievably quickly, I feel like. So just happy to have been here with you. Whether this is your first episode or you've listened to all 409 of this show, it's great to have you along. I don't normally do plugs at the top of the show anymore, but if you want to support the show, patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast, as little as $1 a month. You can also gift subscriptions if you think that somebody would like to get all the bonus content that I put out over there. Or any of the other things that you can get. Free shirts, hangouts, access to the Discord, stuff like that. Patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. But it is the Saturday after Thanksgiving when I am recording this. You are hearing this, of course, maybe on the Wednesday that it comes out. That would be Wednesday, December 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, that's... Why do I have that kind of thing logged in my brain? Just knowing when dates. I don't know. Going to be reviewing the 2025 Bourbon County Stout here in just a little bit. But before we get there, we got a segment of the show that we always do to kick things off. It's called Flying Blind, where I try something that I have not had in a while, or trying something for the very first time. In this case, though, I am trying something that I haven't had in a while that I have actually had a hand in, not necessarily making, but at least what's the right word? Assembling in some cases. If you're watching the video version, you see a blank bottle on screen, but if you're just listening, I love you to death, audio listeners. But this is my main infinity bottle. And I have not touched this in a long time. I put a bunch of stuff in it not too terribly long ago, but it was all the rage, I feel like, when I started doing the podcast in 2017 to have an infinity bottle and to just collect, your last ounce or two of bottles and put them in an unmarked bottle, or make up your own label, or have something that, contained or listed out all of the different bourbons or ryes or whiskeys or whatever that went into it. And I never really did anything to keep track of all that information, but I do know that like early on there was like a lot of Elijah Craig that was in here. Quite a bit of, I want to say, like Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond to some Turkey 101, but like as it's gone on, things of course change and tastes change. And so I don't even remember what all is actually in here, but there's some crazy stuff. The color on it is real nice. And every time that I take this and share it with people, I always say, this is the only time that you're ever going to have this whiskey as it stands, this bourbon as it stands, because the next time that something goes into it, it will change it completely. Because in and of itself, the infinity bottle does change every time that a new pour gets added in. So here we are. I'm going to try a little bit, and we're going to find out together whether or not this infinity bottle has stood the test of time, or if I need to add some more stuff to it to give it a little bit more oomph, I suppose. It's a little ethanol forward, I will be honest. I'm going to say that again, Patreon, because I think my camera cut out just a second. It's a little ethanol forward, if I'm being honest. It's got quite a bit of oak on it, though. I mean, there is something present that seems to be familiar to me, or at least welcoming to me. A lot of cinnamon, a lot of like brown sugar too. I know these are kind of basic notes, but that's kind of where we are at the moment, I suppose. But regardless, cheers. I would say, as it stands right now, it finishes really good. It's nice up front, but it doesn't like blow me away. And I'm not saying that I'm going to sit down with like a bunch of different bottles and try to fix it into a certain profile. But it does make me think that if there are certain, like if I really want something to be more present on the mid palate, and even then I'm thinking maybe too much about it because I want it to be unique and something that I can just share with people and talk about as it being its own thing. But in and of itself, I mean, it's very different. It's very unique. It's a fun little bottle to pull out and have other people try as a once in a lifetime pour. But I also want to incorporate it more into and our greatest supporter of the podcast, Todd Cooper, and friend of the show as well, has an infinity bottle that he takes around to like meetups and stuff, but it's more of a like friend bottle. So if they or just really hangouts in general. And so he'll have friends put in, an ounce or whatever of a bottle that they've brought and then write it down. And it's just a super cool project that he started however many years ago. And I need to do better about taking my infinity bottle places and trying to make it into more of a thing, because it's just sat with me for so long. But still good though. I mean, it's still an interesting pour. It really does remind me of those like snickerdoodly Elijah Craig bottles that I got that made me fall so much in love with bourbon and with Elijah Craig so early on, because they were so special and made me go, I think I want to get into bourbon just more in general, and eventually led to this show starting. And here we are 409 episodes later. So, well, we are just coming off of the holiday weekend, Thanksgiving 2025. And it's as prime a time as ever to talk about what it is that I've been drinking. Answer that question. Because what do you do on Thanksgiving if not eat, drink, and be merry? And I had a fun time making my my turkey cocktail, my wild turkey cocktail, the Wild Rush, for people who were interested in it over the couple of days where we were celebrating. And if you don't know what it is basically the Gold Rush cocktail, but instead of using honey syrup, I use American honey in its place. Makes it a little bit more boozy. Also, just is a fun drink in general. So 2 ounces Turkey 101, an ounce of American honey, and then half an ounce of lemon juice. If you want to change it up and get it a little bit more bold, a little bit different, I supplement the Turkey 101 with Rare Breed, supplement the American honey with American Honey Sting, and just keep the lemon juice the same. So always a fun time. And might have gotten people a little lit at times. So I plead the fifth, though. Anyway, wound up going through an entire bottle of Turkey 101 on Thanksgiving Day. Not me personally, but it just got used so much for like tastings or people, using it in the cocktail that it was just gone. And so that was Thursday on actual Thanksgiving, and then Friday on the way to my parents, my mom and dad, for their Thanksgiving. I had to stop in at Liquor Barn to get another bottle of Turkey 101. And while I was in there, I found the 2025 release of Goose Island's Bourbon County Stout, the original brand stout. And we'll kind of, this is just, I guess, going to be the segue into talking about this bourbon and, this beer, and doing the review for it, because I have some thoughts about the way that they released this year. Mainly the fact, if you're watching the video version, that it's not in its traditional pint bottles anymore. And now it's in a 10 fluid ounce bottle that comes in a 4-pack. And that is such a departure from what they have done in the past that I'm almost of two minds about it. And I have next to me, just for comparison's sake, for anybody who's watching, what the size difference is here. You're seeing the pint bottle, which is 1 pint, 0.9 fluid ounces. I don't know what the breakdown is in there. But it almost feels like, and this is also based off of the pricing for the 4-pack as well. But it almost feels like they knew that people were going to drink one now and drink one later, but they were also going to drink them with friends, right? And so they almost did, this is Goose Island that I'm talking about, by the way. They almost went and did some of the work for you by removing some of the measuring effort that comes with having to go, well, did I give you enough? Do I have enough? And instead, you both get these 10-ounce bottles, and you basically have one beer apiece. And then you've got 2 more in these 4-packs that you can save for when it's done aging 5 years later, which is what they said on their labels. in the past that it ages in the bottle for up to 5 years. Now they've changed the wording here to say perfectly aged, ever evolving. And I guess aging is not necessarily the correct terminology, that it develops in the bottle for up to 5 years. And let me tell you something here. For those of you who are not watching the video version, I wound up with a pretty near perfect stout pour in my my glass. I'm not too terribly upset about that. But the understanding, though, and I mean, it's saying that like there's, debate over it or anything, but the way that it is being told to us by the folks at Goose Island is that the beer itself has been aged in freshly emptied barrels from Buffalo Trace, Heaven Hill, Four Roses, and Wild Turkey. So what I'm going to do two things here after I get done reviewing it, trying it, talking about it in and of itself. The main episode, you are going to get an attempt to pair this with a blend of bourbons that are Buffalo Trace, Heaven Hill, Four Roses, and Wild Turkey. And then Patreon is going to get behind the paywall a different pairing that we will talk about later. With an average aging time of 14 months, the stout delivers deeply developed flavors, and I will not go into the flavors, the tasting notes that they talk about, because I don't have much interest in what they want to impart on me. I want to talk about what I taste instead. Style Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels, and it is 14.8% ABV. So if you want to do that in bourbon terms, that puts it at 29.6 proof. So whether or not this is for the better that they are selling it, and it is pretty much confirmed based on the Goose Island website that the only way that this is available is in these 4-pack 10-ounce bottles. Whether or not this is for the best is to be, I feel like it's kind of left up to the consumer themselves. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I like the shareability of it. I also kind of like the fact that you don't have to fully commit to the full pint bottle. It lets you, lets you off the hook a bit with having to drink this full like 15% ABV beer. But that being said, though, I do love this beer, and I'm excited to dive into it with you. Full disclosure, like I said, did buy this on my way to mom and dad's yesterday for their Thanksgiving. This is a shared beer that a beer that Papa Ritter and I share a love for, and so we both had one last night as well. No, did we split it? We split it. And so I have had a little bit of this already, but that was also after a few drinks. So I'm drinking this on mostly an empty or a fresh palate. And so we are going to talk about it right now. It has the classic Bourbon County brand stout nose to it, where it is, as a lot of people will kind of indicate by some of these heavy imperial stouts, the soy sauce thing going on. I get it. I think that is not something that is unavoidable with some of these heavier stouts. But I do think past that, though, there's something a lot lighter about it too. it's not that it's like refreshing necessarily, but it does seem to have more of just like a straight beer vibe going for it on the nose, which I really like. Like there's almost even a little bit of citrus on the nose. And just kind of straightforwardly, um, I'm really, really enjoying this nose. I think in the past I've been hit so aggressively with like, this feels really sweet. This feels really heavy. The soy sauce thing is a little overwhelming, but I still like really enjoy this beer. But all that being said, though, I I think this is a much more like tempered and much more well refined version of the Bourbon County Stout. The snickerdoodle thing is in there too. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, it's not present for sure. So, cheers, folks. Hope you got some of this. I'm hoping to get more as well. I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah. So right off the bat, it is definitely not as sweet or heavy on the palate as previous years were. It's a little bit lighter. It's still got like the barrel finish, barrel aged influence to it, but it's not as like, oh, and not to use like nondescript terms, but I think a lot of people are so turned off by these stouts, by especially the imperial stouts, because they can't find a way in to experience them and enjoy them in a way that makes you feel like you can actually engage with it. And I think that this is I think this is a lot more accessible for a lot of people. The finish is near infinite. I could spend what I feel like might be about 5 minutes without having to take another sip, and it would still be present. But it does make me want to keep going back and taking another drink and re-engaging with this because it's beautiful. it's such a good beer. I can't think of another year where just out of the gate it has been so well represented. I think that, in the past the Bourbon County Stout has needed to sit in the bottle for a while and develop and give it some time to catch up to how intense some of the flavors are. But in this case, I'm not only excited about what it's going to look like in 2030, when I'm going to have a 10-year-old, but how it might change a little bit in a couple months or how it might look in 2 years, but even just as it stands right now, it's so good. I mean, it is just a phenomenal beer, and I'm so incredibly impressed with what they were able to do. And it's so funny too, because you would think that this might just be something that I don't have to particularly call out, but I do think that it's important to note a couple of things. One, within, the bourbon space, we understand that things don't always maintain the same level of, not necessarily quality, but at least like, based on the summers, right? Or how cold winters are. Barrels are going to have a different influence on how whiskey comes out once it's done aging. Hotter summers, it's going to drive up the alcohol. Colder winters, you might have more whiskey in the actual barrel because it's not experiencing as much evaporation, right? So, depending upon all of these different factors, one season to the next, 1 year to the next, you're going to have a vastly different bourbon or vastly different whiskey that comes out of the barrel. So, when you have somebody like a blending team that is trying to maintain consistency from one small batch to the next, that's one thing. But when you're trying to put out different batches of a product for something like Elijah Craig Barrel Proof or Maker's Mark Cask Strength, then you're allowed a little bit more time to play with the product, the end product itself that winds up going to market. And the same thing can be said about Goose Island and Bourbon County Stout, because it never feels like they are trying to do the same thing 1 year after another. And I also feel like consumers are aware of that as well, not necessarily in terms of like, oh, we know what they're doing. We're giving them kind of grace for changing things up year after year. But at the very least, like, they're cognizant of it and they're going, well, 21 was one of my favorite years. 23, maybe not so much. And they're just now discovering what 2025 looks like for them as well. So and then beyond that too, what these different barrels, the Buffalo Trace, the Heaven Hill, the Four Roses, the Wild Turkey, what that influence is going to look like on their on the final product for this beer too. And so what I'm largely just kind of getting at is excuse me, how vastly different each release is going to be. And how fun it is to try all of them, one after another, year after year. But I'm going on a bit of a diatribe about this, but I am truly impressed, and I do genuinely love this year's batch. So I took a bit of a cut, main episode listeners, so I could run and grab a few bottles and do a quick little blend of some bourbons from the distilleries that they used barrels from to age the 2025 Bourbon County Stout in. So I used I used Turkey 101. I used Four Roses small batch. I used Elijah Craig small batch, which is from Heaven Hill, and then I used a Buffalo Trace single barrel, like just Buffalo Trace bourbon. The only reason that I used Buffalo Trace bourbon single barrel is because I don't think I have any of the small batch right now. But otherwise, that's the only single barrel that's in here. Hopefully that doesn't that doesn't upset the balance of whatever this blend is going to be. I'm not going to drink this whole 2 ounces of, it's roughly 2 ounces. It might be a little bit more. It's definitely looking like a Perry pour on camera. Audio listeners, love you to death again. But it's an interesting blend. I'll say that much. It's very clear that, and I literally just did equal parts of each so that I could get something similar to whatever they did with their ratios for this stout. But I thought it would just be a fun little pairing to put on the side. And again, Patreon has something that they're going to get after the end credits roll. There's a post credits scene just for Patreon. Okay, honestly, that blend doesn't suck. I mean, of course, it's for like heritage distilleries, and I'm just kind of like throwing stuff at the wall to see what works. But an interesting pairing. That would be fun. You know what? What else would be like a fun meetup or hangout or whatever? When you're getting friends together to taste the 25 Bourbon County Stout, is taking products from each of these distilleries, having people try them individually against the stout itself, and trying to find which one they thought paired best with it. That actually might be a stream. That could be a good stream soon. Always thinking. Use it for your next big meetup. It made it like smoky. Pairing the two together, it stripped it of some of its softer notes, and it really went for something on the more savory side there. That is so interesting. I think that like inherently a lot of these bourbons are quite a bit sweeter, and once I introduce them into the mix as like a pairing, it completely changed the game. That was something. I don't know. I don't know if this works 100%, but I mean, it's fun. It's interesting. I tried, at least. I gave it a shot. So, what do you want me to say? I really like on the second sip, like once I actually went back and forth, I kind of immediately, it didn't do as much in terms of a pairing. It seemed to just exist almost at in perfect harmony between the two. Not a bad thing, but you're just kind of like letting them be alongside each other. Again, not a bad thing, but not doing anything else. I wonder if I took barrel proof products from each of these distilleries and put them into the situation, if that gave it a different experience. It probably would. But I just kind of went with what was the most available, and probably would be if anybody was doing this experiment, would be something that is the most like readily available to them. So let's run through nose, palate, finish, and price, which is the way that I review things here on the podcast. Each category is out of 5. It is a final score out of 20. And at the end, I just let you know whether or not this is worth your time, worth your while here. The nose toes the line of, I feel like I know what I'm getting into, but also there's a little something that feels kind of not necessarily off, but it is into that realm of maybe slightly off-putting in some capacity that people don't particularly love with stouts. That being said, though, I mean, it is a little more subtle this year than it has been in the past, but I do think in the snifter, it's really nice. I'm going to give it a 3. I think the palate is fabulous. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful stout. I'm going to give it a 4. And I think the finish is unbelievable. I think it is absolutely remarkable. It is so big and bold and makes you again want to go back and drink more of this and just continue to experience it, while also, you know, thinking about how the heck it still is able to live as it does in that moment. It is an absolute 5. And I don't normally review beer, but when I do, I guess I can translate enough from the whiskey reviews into this. But 3, 4, 5. So we're sitting at a 12 so far. $25 for the 4-pack. Which, if we're taking it into context of basically buying 2 of the pint bottles, it is roughly the same amount of money. And I think that it's a little bit more storable. It's an easier package to transport as well. But all that being said, I mean, it gets down to preference whether or not you want to. And I think that people are going to be put, not off necessarily, but they are going to be confused by the fact that they can't get the full pint bottle. And let me clarify something too. I haven't mentioned this before, but the other beers, the other stouts in the Bourbon County lineup this year are still available in the pint bottles. The regular brand stout, the 2025, is the only one that is only available in the 4-pack. So whether that's for shareability purposes, whether that's thinking about the way that people engage with it in the first year or so that it's available, or whether or not they're thinking about their own bottom line, it's really hard to say. I do think that there are going to be consumers who are confused about it, though, when they go in and they're like, well, why aren't there the pint bottles? And instead, there's only these 10-ounce guys. I like them. I think they're neat. I've seen in the past, I don't know why my voice cracked. I've seen in the past 10-ounce bottles before as well, but they were also offered alongside the pint bottles. Like you could choose which one you actually wanted to purchase. Sorry, my mic arm is so loud. I apologize for that. But all of that being said, it's a once-a-year release. It is expensive for the 4-pack. I understand. It is a big beer. It's not a 4-pack of Miller Lite. It's a special stout. And there is a lot that goes into this, and there's a lot that you can get out of it as well if you are willing to and ready to engage with it. $25. It's tough. I know it's tough for a lot of people to hear. I'm still going to give it a 3.5 for the 4-pack. There's a lot of value you can get out of it. But I know that there's but I also don't know if there's anything better that they can do with that because of the circumstances of what goes into making this beer and, you know, putting it out on the market. I'm actually going to put it at a 4. It's not for everybody is probably the best like way to describe it. Like you're not going to have, nobody's really going to, not everybody's going to walk into the store and see a $25 4-pack and go, that's for me, because a lot of those people are looking for a 6-pack that's, $7.99 or $10 or whatever. And this is kind of a luxury pickup in a lot of ways. I look forward to this every year. I was very excited that it was out. And I did have a moment of pause where I was like, well, even if it is only out in a 4-pack, I'm still going to get some because I'm excited for it. So either way, I hope you're excited for it like I was, but 16.5 out of 20, this is still a recommend for me, especially if you are interested in these stouts, if you've had them in the past and you've maybe even been questionable on them. I think this is still one that you should try and give it a check, because I think it's one of the better offerings straight out of the bottle within the first couple of weeks of release. Depending on when you listen to this episode of the podcast, go for it. I think now is a very good time to try it, but also, try those first couple of bottles, save the other ones as well. I don't think there's any problem with that. I think it's going to keep particularly well. And I look forward to, again, seeing what it's going to look like once it's done developing the bottle in a few years. So I also, again, bought this. This was not a sponsored episode or anything, although we have done partnership work with Goose Island in the past. And I hope to do it again sometime. So regardless, that's it for the review. There are no barrel rings this week, but you can send them in if you'd like to. 859-428-8253. Leave a voicemail or send us a text from your mobile device, and we'll listen to it or read it out here on the show. It sounded like I'm about to go into to plugs, but I'm not there yet, actually. I don't have any high proof hot takes, so I'm going to skip that segment this week. But I am not going to skip Tips and Bits, which is a segment of the show where I recommend things that I've been watching, reading, listening to, video games I've been playing, things I have just been enjoying that I also want you to check out because I think they would enrich your life and you would enjoy them as well. This week, I have been listening to the re-release, and I'm going to pull it up for... I'm not going to play anything because I would get absolutely slapped by the Hendrix estate. But there is a new box set from the Jimi Hendrix estate, re-release of Axis Bold as Love, which is potentially my favorite Jimi Hendrix Experience album. It comes with 4 discs, a Blu-ray, or a 5 LP and Blu-ray. But the first 2 CDs are both the album Axis Bold as Love. And the first one is the stereo mix, and the second one is the mono mix. And I've spent a bunch of time going back and forth, listening to the difference between them. And I'm not going to lead anybody into thinking one way or another about how they sound, but I am curious if, you are an audiophile, I guess, or you have any interest in checking that out, or if you like Jimi Hendrix at all. It's also on streaming. It's not just a box set, but the box set does come with the Blu-ray. You can't get the, whatever content comes with the Blu-ray on streaming. But that being said, though, the Blu-ray, the box set is beautiful. Dad got it for his birthday. It comes with an illustration that Jimmy did when he was like 6 years old of like a rainbow dragon. And it's super, super cool. I love it. I kind of want to get the box set for myself. I'm not even gonna lie. Anyway, love this album. I highly recommend. Even if you've never heard the album itself, go and check it out. The rest of the tracks, excuse me, the rest of the CDs, have like studio outtakes. There is a live show as well, and some other like radio performances in there as well. Just fun, just fantastic stuff. I love music. I don't know what else to say about that. But I do know to say thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the podcast. I'm going to have a just real quick, another little sip of this pairing. Because that blend is so nice. I think I need to do a barrel. Oh, no. I think I need to do a barrel proof version of this blend. I think it would lend itself better to the stout itself. But I mean, I recommended the stout. You got to get some. Getting back on track. Just wanted to say thank you all so much, as always, for supporting the show, for listening, sharing it with your friends. If you do so, that's the best way to get new listeners. Whether it's on social media, whether it's by sending it to your friends via text or whatever, it means the world. You can support the show as well by heading to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast and chicken in. Dadgummit. Chucking in $1 a month, as little as $1 a month. That gets you access to our Discord. $5 and up a month. There is bonus content over there. There's also other benefits by supporting the show too. You can send or follow the show on social media at My Bourbon Pod on all social media channels. I'm also at pritter1792 over there. You can send questions or comments to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. You might be going, why the heck is it called This Is My Bourbon Shop instead of My Bourbon Pod or something like that? Well, the reason behind that is because back when I started this whole daggum thing back in 2017, I actually originally started it with a merch and apparel store that is still active. It's called bourbonshop.threadless.com. You can get to it. I'm showing the video watchers all of the merch and apparel that is over there right now. The I'd Rather Be Drinking Bourbon shirt. This is my bourbon drinking shirt. Just a rocks glass with bourbon. Where's the podcast shirt? Oh, that's an old podcast shirt. I haven't brought the actual podcast shirt up. Sweatshirts, hoodies, regular t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts. There's a bunch of accessories over there too, such as hats, mugs, bags, phone cases, greeting cards. I didn't realize we had greeting cards, mouse pads, all sorts of stuff. There's a big ass August phone case that you can get. There's the old logo of the podcast, the new logo for the podcast that you can get to. So much stuff over there. Go and check it out. Everything goes to support the show. But yeah, bourbonshop.threadless.com. Link is in the description as well. But just as easily type it into your browser. You can, again, send questions or comments, I guess, to our Barrel Rings line, 859-428-8253. You can also send stuff to our P.O. Box. It's P.O. Box 22609, Lexington, Kentucky, 40522. And then last but not least, if you want to leave a 5-star rating and review for the podcast, you can do so on your favorite podcast app, and we'll read it out here on the show. And that does it for this week's episode. Next week, though, we might be having a special guest sitting in. And we might have some special guests sitting in for the next few weeks, depending on how things work out. But we will get there, sure enough. So stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much. Genuinely. I always say this, but Timbip is my favorite thing that I get to do, creativity-wise, every single week. And I love you for it. Thank you for supporting the show. We got way more to go. See you next time. Until then, though, I'm Perry. And this is my Bourbon Podcast.